Hi, I'm Chef Will Gillson here at Garden at the Cellar. One of our more popular recipes and dishes that we have here at Garden at the Cellar are our tater tots. These are not your normal high school lunch line tater tots. These are kind of like fried potato beignets of mashed potatoes in the middle. So we're going to go through that whole process of how to make them. First and foremost, we have 10 large potatoes, russet or regular kind of Idaho potatoes. Any kind of baking potatoes will work well. We have those peeled, boiling back here on the stove. But the key to making the tater tots rich and also stay together when they get deep fried is to make them with a recipe called choux paste. When I mean choux paste, I don't mean what you put on your feet. This is CHOUX, the basis for making pâte de choux, so eclairs and profiteroles. So in this case, we're actually not turning it into a baked item. We're actually using it as a binding agent with the potatoes to then put inside the whole mixture and then fry it. We'll start with making the choux paste. We need 1 pound of butter. Now this is going to make a relatively large batch of tater tots. 10 potatoes, probably going to make enough tater tots for you to put some of this mixture in your freezer and have it for parties for a while. So we take the butter, cut it into smaller pieces so that it cooks a little faster, and place that inside our pot here. And then we're going to add in 4 cups of water. I'm going to take this mixture, put it on the stove, bring it to a boil until the butter melts, and then we'll get to the next step after that. So the next step in the process of making tater tots is to add the flour into the water and butter that's already been boiling in this pot right here. Like I said, 4 cups of water, 1 pound of butter, then gets 4 cups of flour. So you want to keep the heat going and slowly whisk in this flour. And you want to make sure you keep the heat on while you do this, but keep it very low. If it's too high, you're going to burn the mixture that you're creating right here. So one of the main keys to this recipe is making sure that the potatoes that you have are perfectly dry. If there's any sort of residual moisture or boiling water left in it, then no matter how many times you make this recipe, they're going to explode in the fryer later. So what we've just done here is we've taken the potatoes, strained them after they've been boiled, and now we're going to return them to the same pot that they boiled in over a light heat while we mash them. And by doing this, all of that moisture that's left from the boiling process is going to evaporate. You're going to be left with nice, dry mashed potatoes. So now that we've got the perfectly dry mashed potatoes and we've got our choux paste here, we're going to transfer that into a mixer bowl. And now that we've got the mixer bowl, we're going to put that right here. Now you can do this by hand if you don't own a mixer. It's just a little bit more work and a little bit more of an exercise for your forearms. If you are using a mixer though, use the paddle attachment rather than the whisk attachment, because you want to be able to incorporate this stuff kind of gently into it so that it doesn't pull it or build up tough glutens, so that you still get those really nice creamy interiors. So now that we've got the potatoes here, we're going to add in the choux paste, and we're going to mix this on the first speed for about 30 seconds, just until all the potatoes and choux paste get incorporated. And once we have that going, we've got 4 eggs and 4 egg yolks that we're going to add in very slowly. One or two at a time, because obviously this mixture is hot and it's going to be cooking the eggs. So you have to be really careful not to add it all in so you don't just have a giant thing of scrambled eggs. You want them to be incorporated into the whole mixture. This is what's going to make the tots creamy but nice, light, and fluffy as well. So now that you've turned off the mixer and the tot base is just kind of sitting here. If you feel as though it's a little bit too wet, you can always test one on the fry later. You can add in a little bit of what we're going to bread these tater tots in. We actually use the potatoes out of the box that you use for fake potatoes. The potato flakes, any kind of brand works. Obviously in a home grocery store, probably the best brand is going to be Idaho Spuds or none of the ones that have any sort of flavoring to them, just plain old everyday potato flakes. So we're going to use these because once we roll the tater tot base in them, put it in the fryer, it's going to taste like they're coated with potato chips. That's the whole idea of this recipe. They also start to look a little bit like the chunky tater tots that you're classically used to seeing, but with a creamy mashed potato inside. So if at this point you think it's a little too wet or you test it and it doesn't work in your fryer later, you can add a little bit of the potato flakes into it, but you don't want to add too much because then they're going to get dry and you're not going to have that nice creamy taste. So at this point we're going to add in 1 tablespoon of salt. And when you're adding in the butter to the beginning part of the recipe, always keep in mind when you add in the salt at the end that if you use unsalted butter, it's going to need more. If you use salted, it's going to need less. And then we use a small scoop. These kind of scoops can be picked up usually at any kitchen supply store. If you don't have one of these, you can definitely use a regular spoon. And you want to get just about a small ball, a little bit smaller than a ping pong ball, maybe about half the size. And we kind of make that into a ball with your hands. It's much easier to do this when the mixture is warm as well, because then the potato flakes actually stick to it. You can roll the balls in the potato flakes now. So now that you have your tater tots set aside here and rolled, make sure that your oil is at 350 in your fry later. Fry Daddy, whatever you have. If you don't have a Fry Daddy, or luckily a restaurant with a fry later, you can actually heat the oil up in a large pot on the stovetop, just making sure that you have a thermometer, which you can check it until it gets to 350. That's the magic number for frying anything, especially potato-based. You want it at 350 degrees. That'll give you the most even fry and color all the way around. So very carefully, take the tater tots, place them in the basket of your fry later or Fry Daddy. Again, if you're doing this on the stove top, just make sure you lower these in very carefully into the hot oil, perhaps with a spoon or a slotted spoon. So now we take them, drop them in the oil, and let them fry. Depending on the size of your fry later and how hot it gets, it's going to determine whether or not these are going to take 1.5 to 5 minutes to cook. But you want to always kind of cook by using your eye and taking a look at these throughout the cooking process by lifting the basket up very gently but not letting them get above the level of the oil, just to see if they're perfectly golden brown. But in an industrial fry later, I'd say about 1.5 minutes. In a home kitchen fry later or on the stove top, probably going to be about 4 to 5 minutes. Pull them out carefully and make sure you let them drain. If you're using a pot of oil or a household fryer that doesn't have a basket, at this point you'd want to take your spoon and lift them out gently and put them onto something with some paper towels or napkins like this. Now these are going to be very hot, so I would recommend using a pair of tongs, perhaps a spoon to take them out. And there we have it, tater tots.